The story really starts with the founding of NuVu. So myself and my other co-founder, Saeed, and we have a third co-founder, David, but two of us, Saeed and myself, are actually coming from an architecture background. So I'm an architectural designer, urban designer. It was probably 13 years ago, we were thinking of starting a school based on principles of creative learning. The model that really struck out to us was the model that we had been trained in, which was the architecture studio model. A very old model. It's been around for a few hundred years. And designers are really trained within this model that's focused on developing these creative thinking skills. And so that model was very interesting to us to bring into the K-12 space because it allowed for young people to really tap into their creative potential, provide a framework for learning, which was very hands-on and interdisciplinary. And it allowed for this hands-on making, which is a big component to the learning process in the architecture studio model. You're thinking about ideas, you're looking at the world around you, you're going through this process of problem solving. You're provided a brief, which is a problem that you're exploring in an architecture studio environment. And within that, you are tapping in and brainstorming ideas for all different types of possibilities for those problems. And then you're actually going through this process of prototyping. And that could be developing sketches, that could be doing hands-on physical prototyping, doing model making. In every industry, there's a lot of digital tools. So a lot of these tools are also what builds on that hands-on making piece. So we took all of those principles that we found in the architecture studio environment. And I want to say one extra thing. A key component is also that critique process, which was very, very integral. This process of feedback, it's an apprenticeship model. So you have your professors that are giving you feedback as you're developing your ideas. And it's in this space of critique that you're reassessing and looking at this thing that you're making and re-examining it and bringing in content areas. So you're bringing in science, you're bringing in engineering, you're bringing in architectural history, you're bringing in the social sciences, and they're all coming together in this project that you're working on. And I think you'll also find some other ingredients that you wouldn't find necessarily in an architecture design studio environment, which is this idea of collaboration, that students aren't working just on their own on this project, but they're actually working as teams. So there is this bringing of student experience, their diverse backgrounds, their different thoughts and ideas also come together, and there's a back and forth that takes place as students are negotiating their ideas. I think it really helped that we were coming into the education field almost as outsiders, because what we didn't know was possible, or maybe seemed impossible, actually worked to our advantage because we could really try things, and we were I'd say fearless in the sense that existing structures and things that oftentimes people in the education field are unchangeable. We just were sort of doing business as needed to be done. And so I think one of the things that sometimes ends up being a big constraint is scheduling. We think of this thing as, that just exists and we can't really tamper with it. So one of the big things that we just initially from the start when starting the school was that we're going to eliminate this whole idea of 1-hour courses. And sometimes in many schools, you'll find it's not even an hour, it's 45 minutes. And when you're talking about the creative process, it's hard to see it contained within a 45-minute block of time. So we eliminated this idea of a 1-hour schedule where students are racing from one subject to the next, and redesigned the whole trimester so that students were just focusing on a project for, initially it was 2 weeks. The second part was eliminating, traditional grades and testing and rethinking the assessment model from completely from scratch. And a big aspect of the architecture studio model is this idea of a portfolio-based assessment. So really it's about the process of thinking and how you can every day be documenting your process as you're developing a project. We've come across a handful over the last 10 years. I can probably count them maybe on one hand of students that, NuVu wasn't the place for them. And it's because they needed a whole support system that was outside of even the traditional or learning model. We've worked in refugee camps where we're working with an organization in Turkey that works with refugees. And so we are seeing this model being adapted to all different types of, social, economic, his, historical, cultural, all different types of scenarios and conditions.